There are so many places inside Disneyland where you can commune with Walt Disney himself. Pirates of the Caribbean, his very last ride. There's the Matterhorn. Remember how he sent a postcard of the real Matterhorn mountain and said, "Build this thing at Disneyland." He was so proud of the Jungle Cruise, his submarine fleet, and the monorail, which was the first operating monorail system in the Western Hemisphere. How about the story where the castle model was turned around, and because Walt preferred the backward castle, we have the Sleeping Beauty castle as we know it today. There's also his beautiful Main Street, USA, where he had a personal apartment. The list just goes on and on. But today, we're going to talk about my favorite place to connect with Mr. Disney, Tom Sawyers Island. Hi there, Mouseketeers! Welcome to the Disneyland Beat, where our toes tap to a Disneyland drum and we always whistle while we work. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe so you won't miss out on upcoming Disneyland videos. Outside of Marceline, Missouri is the Disney farm where young Walt and his brother Roy grew up. When Walt was a boy, he experienced what it meant to live a rural farm life. He explored dusty barns, babbling brooks, and the branches of tall trees. There was a large tree behind the barn on the property where Walt would sit and dream of his characters. The Dreaming Tree was eventually dedicated to his legacy. Walt Disney loved nature and the outdoors. From Disneyland's earliest concepts, an island in the center of a mighty river was always present. Originally, the island was meant to be the Mickey Mouse Club Island, a home for the Mickey Mouse Club and the Mouseketeers. Later, it was proposed to be an American history land for miniatures of historic American landmarks such as Independence Hall, Mount Vernon, and Monticello, which would be seen from the Mark Twain riverboat. At one point, Walt considered making it Treasure Island themed. Eventually, Walt decided that among the somewhat passive audience experiences within his Disneyland park, a place for self-guided exploration and spontaneous play was the perfect fit, and his hometown appreciation of Mark Twain and his heroes Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn provided a foundational story for the island. Originally, Disney legend Marvin Davis took a crack at the Tom Sawyer concept, but the boss was not satisfied with the work. He recalled Mr. Disney barking, "Give me that thing," and leaving with the plan sheet. That night in the Red Barn at his Carrollwood Avenue home, Walt worked for hours adding the elements he envisioned for Tom Sawyer Island. Davis recalled that on the next morning, Walt laid the original plan with his own vellum overlay on Davis's desk and proclaimed, "Now that's the way it should be." The island was built according to Walt's design. "I put in all the things I wanted to do as a kid and couldn't," Walt said. Walt is also quoted as saying he wanted the island to be for children and for free. During the spring of 1956, Southern California newspapers featured an advertisement of a raft with a pirate skull and crossbones flag making its way to Tom Sawyer Island. The island opened on June 16, 1956, Disneyland's second year. For the opening, two Hannibal, Missouri contest winners, most like Tom Sawyer and Becky Thatcher, brought water from the Mississippi and soil from Jackson's Island for the ceremony. Following the ceremony, guests were invited to a fish fry with real Missouri catfish. For years, Tom Sawyer, played by different actors, could be found on the island. Disney legend Tom Nab, who helped open Disneyland Paris, started his career as Tom Sawyer on the island. He pestered Walt for the job of playing Tom as a child, and Walt agreed, as long as he maintained a C+ average. And the story goes that Walt did check his report cards personally. Part of the island's charm is that it can only be accessed by raft, an homage to Huckleberry Finn's famous watercraft. After disembarking at Tom's Landing, visitors can explore trails through the wilderness, cross a swaying suspension bridge or bouncing pontoon bridge, and explore the various rock formations and mysterious underground passageways. There are plenty of restful spots to soak up some sunshine, rest in the shade, and enjoy the peaceful waterfront. Photography of this area of the park show a pastoral, secluded setting with hills, paths, and large trees. Everyone knows that Fort Wilderness is closed to the public and is only good for some quiet restrooms, but when the island originally opened, the fort was open and guests were welcome to explore the many levels and gun turrets of the fort. Complete with a gift shop, refreshment stand, and museum-quality officers' quarter displays, the fort was a cool attraction. While the sailing ship Columbia still fires at the fort when it passes, the fort used to fire back. Eventually, the fort fell into disrepair. The original pine logs failed, and the fort had to be dismantled. It was moved much further back on the island and is now just a shadow of the original. Another currently faded feature on the island is Tom and Huck's treehouse. A large concrete and steel tree similar to the ones in Adventureland was constructed at the peak of the island on the southern side. Originally, this was the highest point in Disneyland, and as the trees on the island were fairly small, the treehouse could be seen throughout much of the park. It is fun to visit that tree and imagine that Walt might have been paying homage to the dreaming tree when he made the treehouse such a major visual focal point. In a brilliant aesthetic and practical move, 3 streams bubble forth from the roots of this tree down 3 sides of the hill, providing visual and audio interest while also filtering the park water systems. The treehouse could be explored, and guests climbed up and down its stairs for decades, imagining what it was like to be Tom and Huck. Today, the treehouse is no longer accessible, although you can climb around the large roots. These days, the treehouse is difficult to be seen from the river due to 60 years of tree growth. Castle Rock is another famous attraction on the island. For years, it was a large rock structure that families could climb with passages leading down into the tunnels and Injun Joe's cave. Today, Castle Rock has been topped with a platform and barrels and boats from a shipwrecked pirate vessel to connect the Pirates of the Caribbean theming. The original island had Injun Joe's cave with its entrance on the southeast side of the island and its exit near where the rafts dock today on the southwest side. Injun Joe's cave was dark and spooky with the sound of wind and the occasional scream piped in. It featured many neat formations, and any kid who experienced it remembers the bridge over a bottomless pit. This was a really cool experience for every kid to have caves of this size to explore in a place like Disneyland. Parents knew their kids were safe, but the caves were so well themed that you still felt a sense of danger and excitement when traveling through them. The northern part of the island originally housed an unfriendly Indian tribe, as opposed to the friendly tribes found in Indian country, which is where Critter Country is now. An unfriendly native village with a burned-out settler's cabin. This was not something you could explore on foot, but saw from the river vessels that endlessly looped the island. Today, the northern part of the island is much smaller, and the entire river size was reduced to make room for Galaxy's Edge. When the island and river were shrunk, the Indian village was refurbished and made into a friendly Native American tribe. The endlessly burning cabin was extinguished, and the Gully Wumper was permanently docked in front of it. On its opening day, the island featured a fishing dock where guests paid a small fee to fish with a pole and bait, just like Tom and Huck in the stocked rivers of America. While this was a unique and immersive feature of the land, it did not last. Some people blame the processed water killing the fish, and others to the fact that many of the caught fish ended up in lockers and went unclaimed, because who wants to carry around a dead fish at an amusement park? But it was still a great idea, and Walt sure seemed to love it. According to Disneyland press media, there are at least 3 types of fish that still live in the river to this day. An interesting aside, the Rivers of America is actually part of a larger body of water called the Green Water System, which also includes the Jungle Cruise, the Frontierland Entrance Pond and Big Thunder Mountain Pool, the Castle Moats, Storybook Land, and the pond for the defunct motorboat cruise are all connected via underground pipes. Apparently, fish can travel through these pipes and inhabit all of these places. Over the years, the island has been through 2 major renovations. For 36 years, Tom Sawyers Island remained as Walt originally created it, but in the early 1990s, the entertainment division was tasked with creating a nighttime spectacular that included water and fireworks to invigorate this section of the park. The Rivers of America were drained and the island was closed for almost 2 years as the meticulous and elaborate construction for a huge extravaganza were completed. Then, in 1992, after a very long wait, Fantasmic opened to the public. The result changed the southern end of the island forever. Harper's Mill was moved, and there was also the refurbishment of the earth-covered show building that housed Injun Joe's cave. The caves became slightly smaller as some of them became backstage passages for the show. The large Lafitte's Tavern building was also constructed to act as the backdrop for the show stage. The island was changed again 15 years later in 2007. After the success of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, the entire island was closed again and given a new theme and a new name, Pirates Lair on Tom Sawyers Island. When it reopened, the entire island had a new look and feel, and the changes made in 1992 made a little more sense to the story. The entire island was re-themed with sea vessels washed ashore and left in the most precarious places. Smuggler's Cove is fun with its interactive attractions and works well with the pre-existing suspension and barrel bridges. Castle Rock is now strewn with sea wreckage. The back half of a large masted ship covers the old secret tunnels that used to feed up into Fort Wilderness. Underneath the ship, you'll find several skeletons and themed rooms that open out to a treasure chest and pirate flag. Injun Joe's Cave is gone, and in its place is Pirate's Lair. Using modern projections and holograms, guests find a pirate's cave and treasure chest with several interactive displays as a reward for their exploration. Appearances by some of the movie characters make the island makeover a lot of fun. Although the original theming may have faded in favor of some Pirates of the Caribbean presence, the island has kept its beauty and sense of seclusion. It still allows visitors to write their own story and create their own adventure while exploring the island on their terms, just as Walt had originally intended. Walt Disney himself once said, "Disneyland is something that will never be finished," and that is probably why Disneyland is still so popular today. Tom Sawyers Island embodies the best of Disneyland. It honors the past, utilizes the tools of the present, and captures the imagination and the possibilities of the future. Well, that's it today for the Disneyland Beat. Be sure to let us know what you love best at Tom Sawyers Island in the comments down below. And please take a moment to like and subscribe so you don't miss another Disneyland Beat. See you real soon, Mouseketeers!